Hello, my name's Julian Edgar and I'm the author of the book you see in front of you, Car Electrical and Electronics Systems. What I want to do in today's video is talk about a really trick immobiliser that you can build yourself. It's far better than commercial immobilisers and it's going to make it really hard for a thief to steal your car. Now, why is it better than commercial immobilisers? Well, here's a pretty trick looking one. Buttons on a remote, even an LCD that you can look at. But what happens when the thief steals your keys? Then they can press the buttons just as easily as you. They can get into the car. They can drive away with it. So the problem with commercial immobilisers is if the thief has your keys, they're absolutely ineffective. They don't stop them for even one moment. Whereas the immobiliser I'm about to cover has a secret function, and if the thief doesn't know that secret function, they're not going to be able to steal the car. They might be able to get into it, but they're not going to be able to drive it away at all easily. So what are the functions or the parts that this particular immobiliser actually has? Well, its main two features are two relays. Now, a word of warning, if you don't know what a single pole, single throw relay is, or a double pole, double throw relay, then this is probably going to be a project that's a bit hard for you to build. And if that is the case, have a look at the video that I've done on using relays, because I cover all of those terms and explain them. So we've got two relays, one a normal heavy-duty car relay, and that's used to disable the circuit that you want to have switched off so the car can't run. It might be fuel pump or it might be ignition system or whatever it might be. We also have some terminals. We have a sensor down here, which I'm going to cover in a moment, and on the left we have a remote. Now, it can be a remote from anything, because what we do is we gut it. We take out all the electronics that are inside, and then we put this flat, powerful magnet inside the remote. Now, you might be saying, well, how does all that work? When you get into the car, you turn on the ignition, and then you swipe the remote past a secret part of the interior. And behind that secret part of the interior is this sensor which detects magnetic fields. And so you get into the car, you turn on the car, you swipe the remote past that secret spot, which might be behind carpet or a trim panel, and then the car is all ready to go. You've turned off the immobiliser. Now, even if the thief is stalking you, even if the thief is watching your every move day after day, they're not going to understand what you have done because it's just such a natural gesture. Get in the car, start the car, and you can even have the secret part quite close to the ignition barrel, so you can just pass the remote across it and then the car will start. So how does it achieve this? It's actually incredibly simple. Let's start off by looking at half of the circuit. Now, what we've got here in the red box is a relay. The blue rectangle is its coil, and then we have the contacts that can be pulled across. In this case, a single contact that can go in two different directions, so a single pole double throw relay. And on the right, we have a normally open switch. Now, that's going to become something else later on, but let's just leave it as a normally open switch at this stage. So what happens when we close that switch? We complete the circuit. So the power comes from 12-volt ignition. It passes through the relay coil. It passes through the switch and to ground. So we're turning on the relay. What happens when we turn on the relay? Well, the contact gets pulled across, doesn't it? Now, once the contact has been pulled across, the relay will stay switched on even when that switch is released. It latches, it self-latches. How does it do that? Well, if we follow the power through the coil, we can see that now it can also pass through the contact of the relay, which is in parallel with the switch, and so the switch stays effectively closed, even though it's open. The relay stays on. Okay, so that's our first step. What's our next step? Well, the next step is to add some more contacts to that relay. That's why it's a double pole, double throw relay. It's got two sets of contacts. This is the smaller of the two relays. Now, when the relay stays latched, remember that first contact is now pulled upwards, well, the second contact stays latched as well. That's pulled upwards as well. So what, you're saying? Well, here's the final iteration of the circuit. When that second contact is pulled up in the double pole, double throw relay, then another relay is activated. And that other relay is the one that turns on the circuit that you actually want. It turns on the circuit that you actually want to have running when the car is to go. Now, instead of that normally open switch, we use a normally open reed switch. A reed switch is a little switch that when it is subject to a magnetic field, it can close or it can open depending on how you wire it. We want it to be normally open, so when the magnet is nearby, it closes. So the normally open switch on the circuit is your reed switch, which closes with the magnet is nearby. And you can see after you've switched on the ignition, nothing's going to happen until the magnet goes near that secret spot, that secret sensor, the reed switch. And once the magnet has gone past that spot, doesn't have to stay there, only has to be swiped past, then the double throw relay is pulled up, and that switches on the other relay, which lets the car actually run. So just two relays, just a reed switch, just a magnet, and just a discarded remote, and yet almost impossible for a thief to work out how to get the car started without obviously, pulling half the car apart, bypassing the ECU, etc., etc., etc. There's a close-up of the remote that I use, just one that I had floating around for some other application, and there's the little magnet. That magnet's actually taken from a discarded hard disk drive, which have got very powerful magnets in it, but you don't have to have a special magnet like that. A little round one is also fine. There's the final iteration. So we have the relay that was used to disable the particular car circuit you want to disable. We have the smarts in the double throw relay. We have the remote, the magnet inside, and here is the reed switch, which in this case is built into a housing. They're fragile reed switches. They're a glass envelope, so be careful when you're actually using it, and make sure you get one which is a normally open reed switch. It closes when the magnet is nearby. It is actually covered in the book, Car Electrical and Electronic Systems. It's such a neat little project and so effective, I decided to cover it in that book, and I recommend the book to you. Thank you.